Fuck's sake. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to episode 157.5 of the Severe MMA podcast. Myself and Graham are back here after about an hour and a half since we finished up recording the last podcast. And it's the bad news that everybody was expecting, but was not hoping for, as Tony Ferguson is injured and out of his fight with Khabib Magomedov. It's actually April 2nd now here in Ireland, in Limerick, where I'm sitting. So this is not an April Fool's joke. It's real.
Yeah, we wouldn't put up anything like that ever, by the way.
No.
If you ever see anything on Severe, it's not a joke in any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And Ariel tweeted as well. So if Ariel says it, I believe
he's a clown. Who believe him? When's he ever gone anything right?
That is true. That is, initial reaction, Graham, and obviously we should mention as well at the start, Max Holloway is in to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. But first of all, reaction to Tony being
for quote the same belt. So whatever that means. Yeah, it's fucking disappointing, isn't it? It's I even said on the podcast, I just had a feeling this was actually going to go ahead this time. It got close. I thought it was going to take something very serious to take either one of them out of this fight, and it seems like this LCL injury, I don't know if it's a tear or what it is, but it seems Brett Okamoto saying he tripped. He saw somebody he wasn't expecting to see and tried to go towards them and tripped and injured his LCL. So I don't know. That's just ridiculous, like ridiculously unlucky and just weird. It's like dropping a phone, or was it? Did somebody drop a phone on their foot and break their foot in football before? Or drop
Robbie Keane was going for like the remote control and pulled his hamstring or something, didn't he? Remember?
Something like that. There's some weird ones over the years anyway, but this is so disappointing. Like Max Holloway coming in is a great replacement, the best replacement except for probably Conor McGregor. But like that was very unlikely. Obviously, we were talking about on the podcast a few hours ago that the deal doesn't seem to be in place with Conor in the UFC. So unless the deal was sorted this week when Conor's in town and for Artem, if he is going to be in town for Artem, who's also fighting on this card, then I think Holloway's he's a very good replacement. It still makes it a very exciting fight, but it's just we've been waiting for this Tony Ferguson Khabib Nurmagomedov fight for 4 years, and it seemed like it was finally about to happen, and again, or it was finally we were actually gonna see it this time, and now it's happened again, and Tony's out.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to the main podcast yet, just skip in. It's 32 minutes we've been talking about this fight. So literally exactly
half the podcast.
Just skip to the 30, and that I'm not joking. Skip to the actual 32-minute mark, and from there on out, then we speak about Rose and Joanna and everything. So we'll just keep this about kind of the new fight here in our reaction. So if you want to go back and listen to the rest of our analysis, go to there. But my initial thought is obviously devastation. No, if anyone went back and actually listened to that now, although it's kind of pointless, I was really, really up for this fight. Thought it was a very good matchup. Was picking Tony to win, and now he's obviously out, and it's devastating. This is. I remember when Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw happened. I was talking about that being like one of the top, most technical matchups ever seen in the UFC, and this was another one. Like this was as good as it gets. It's up there with the best matches in UFC history on paper, at least. And now it's gone 7 days before it, and it really is devastating. Like 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, this fight has been made for, and it's never happened yet. It's ridiculous. It can't be made again. It just can't. They can't do it to us again. We've been hurt enough times, Graham.
I can't take it anymore.
I actually feel personally hurt by this, and I know Tony Ferguson. If he could fight, he'd fight, and it's not against Tony Ferguson, but it's just like the bad look of him. We can never have nice things, can we?
Oh, it's terrible. It actually is terrible. We were talking about it on the podcast, saying it was. We're looking. I think the 3-week gap between UFC London and this UFC 223 built the anticipation even more. But even without that, I think this fight would have been very excited. People would have been very excited, but that just added to it, and it was just a lot of time to consume all the content and to listen to everything and to think about the fight and to go back and watch all fights and everything. And it was just building very nicely. Like McGregor was rumored to, or people were speculating that McGregor's going to be there for Artem. It was all set up nicely, and now it's all fucked.
Do you think there was any hope or talk of McGregor stepping in to fight? Khabib tweeted earlier on saying, "Where are you now, Conor McGregor?" Before we were doing the podcast, we were like, "Oh, it's April Fools or having a joke or something." And now it looks like he was trying to call him to do the fight. And I don't know whether, is it the Frank Edgar thing all over again where
I
he
don't think
offers
I don't think the UFC would even want to put that together on short notice, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think they'd save that. Like, I don't think that's what the biggest fight they can put on nearly. I don't think they want to put that on a few days' notice.
Yeah.
They want to send McGregor around on a ridiculous media tour, send Khabib around on a ridiculous media tour, and put it in a charge more than they're charging for tickets, charge more for the pay-per-view, probably as well. The UFC and Conor don't seem to have a deal at the moment. They don't seem to have fleshed out the negotiations quite yet. By the sound of things, I don't have any inside information about that, but just from the what I'm hearing on social media and other journalists and stuff, I think the UFC wouldn't want to put that together. If the UFC didn't want to put the Edgar McGregor fight together on short notice, I don't think they want to put one of the potentially biggest fights in the whole company on short notice.
Yeah. What about this fight, Frankie Edgar? Jesus,
your boy, he's got to be back in the title shot.
He's going to get another title shot.
Give him the shot.
He is
make like interim belt. Make it happen.
If Holloway wins this and wins the 155-pound belt, he'll probably stay there, and then he'll have to vacate that belt. And who's going to be fighting for the title? Frankie Edgar. Let's be honest here. It's gonna he'll beat Cub Swanson and he'll be right up there fighting again for the title. So there you go. But
well deserved as well.
We haven't had much time to think about this, I suppose. But let me talk a little bit here about how this fight between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Max Holloway might go. Now, Max has improved an awful lot in his takedown defense. It's been very good in recent fights. Obviously, against McGregor, he got taken down at will, but he's had an awful lot of fights since then. He was obviously supposed to fight Frank Edgar, but he didn't fight him. Fought Jose Aldo twice, who isn't really a wrestler or anything, but destroyed Jose. So shows what level what his level actually is. He fought Ricardo Lamas and Cub Swanson and a couple of more guys who are not the best wrestlers in the world, so he's definitely never fought anyone with the level of wrestling of Khabib. But if you listen to the earlier podcast where I spoke about how Khabib would be beaten, it's good takedown defense, but also pushing him backwards on the feet. Yeah. Max Holloway definitely has the ability to push forward. Max Holloway is a better striker than Tony Ferguson, I think. A better technique, hits harder as well, has the power, I think, to knock out Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's knocked out Anthony Pettis, Jose Aldo twice in his last 3 fights. So he that championship level knockout power is there for Max Holloway. And this is an interesting fight. It's very, very interesting. The only sad thing is it's on 6 days. How prepared will he be?
Yeah.
So
he's coming off, and he pulled out of his Edgar fight two months ago with a leg injury. We don't know the specifics of it, but he'd obviously prefer to have a proper camp if he was going to fight somebody like Khabib. But he's game. He's stepped up. You got to say fair play to Max Holloway. Like Khabib on short notice when you're already the champion yourself is a ballsy move, and that shouldn't, like, in the disappointment of this Tony Ferguson injury, we shouldn't forget about fair play to Max Holloway saving this keeping this a massive event by doing this. But surely if he maybe he wasn't sitting in the bar, or he wasn't out in the burger shop every day, but I'm sure he wasn't anywhere near fight shape. And Holloway's a big guy. Like, he's probably gonna have to cut some weight to get down to 155. So with preparation, this would have been a lot better of a matchup for Holloway. But it's still, as you said, if he can push Khabib backwards, which he's been able to do to most opponents, not Conor McGregor, but since then he's been able to do that. On the feet to his opponents, put pressure on them, volume just for days, and a relentless pace. He's going to go 5 rounds here. Can he go 5 rounds at that pace on short notice? Maybe he can. We don't know what he's been doing. Hopefully we'll get there'll be some interviews with Max Holloway coming in the next couple of days on whoever. Ariel will probably have him on the MMA Hour tomorrow. I'd guess now if he can, and we'll probably find out more about what Max Holloway's been doing. But Khabib on short notice, when Khabib's been preparing for whatever title fight, some kind of title fight, it's going to be fucking tough for Max, in fairness.
Yeah, as you mentioned the injury there, I think that's kind of the biggest part of it. How is he actually after the injury? I'm sure they wouldn't give him the fight unless he was cleared and everything. What were you saying? It's 2 months ago, isn't it? Since he pulled out with that injury, so I don't think it was a big thing at the time. So I think he'll actually be okay. But it's definitely an interesting matchup. Do you know, it's actually after dawning on me, it's after making me a bit sadder. Do you know, if Jose Aldo had beaten Max Holloway, what would we be getting now?
Yeah, would Jose take a short notice fight like this though? I don't think so.
Maybe actually, yeah, you're right. But I'm happy enough with this, to be honest. It's hard to fathom what's actually happening because I was so in love with that Tony Ferguson Khabib Magomedov fight. But I'm actually like, give me time to think about this. I'll have the size up on YouTube. It'll probably be up Wednesday or Thursday, and I'll have a full breakdown of it. But I'm excited about this fight. It should be a pretty good fight between two really good guys. You know, Max Holloway is the champion for a reason, been on an absolute tear. His size might play a factor as well, but Max has beat big guys.
A big guy though.
Yeah, he beat Anthony Pettis. Yeah, beat Jeremy Stevens, fought at lightweight, beat Charles Oliveira, who's fought at lightweight. You know, he's no joke, definitely 100%. And obviously, you know, fought McGregor as well. Obviously, didn't beat him, but you know, another lightweight. Yeah. So
if he can land one of them phantom punches he landed on Charles Oliveira, like it could be all over.
You're fucking Hadouken kind of punch, like
nearly took his head clean off.
But yeah, I suppose we'll just get into a few of your questions. You've sent in a pile of questions. Thanks to everyone over on at SevereMMA pod. So let me just pull up a few of these now. Mark at Mark C _official. Do you think Khabib and Ferguson do this on purpose for the laugh? It's getting to this stage now where
and Dana's in on it, doing an interview with ESPN. Just April Fools, they're all in on it. That'd be.
It'd actually be kind of funny. Like, I hope it is. Yeah.
If you're gonna do an April Fool's joke, this is how you do it. Yeah. If it is a joke, but unfortunately, when Ariel Helwani and Brett Okamoto and Dana White and Khabib and when they're all saying this stuff, you gotta believe it's true, and it is true, and it's fucking annoying. But
imagine if it wasn't though. Like, imagine the amount of press this would get for him.
I remember last year, I think it was last year, this time last year, was it, or 2 years ago, Norman Park was cut from the UFC on April Fool's Day. And I was like talking to him on the phone. I was like, here, if you fucking, I'm serious, Norman, like if we've been putting up fake news on Severe because of you, I'm like, that, I'm not going to be happy. Like, please tell me. And he was just like, I'm not joking with you. I'm not joking with you. Showed me the screenshot. It was sent like the day before, but he hadn't opened whatever it was. And I was just like, fuck. Like, this better not be fake, Norman. Like, I was like, seriously, because like it is like people are replying to that tweet being like, not very funny. Like, you know, people like, I would probably assume if I was just some guy, casual fan, and I saw Ronaldo like quits Real Madrid or some ridiculous story that just sounds like it's fake, like, you know, on April Fool's Day, I'd be like, that's fake.
I was literally sitting down to record the size up.
This is your fault.
As it happened. No, I hadn't done yet.
Jan Kurtz has started again.
And I got a fucking message from Nick Ildea, look on Twitter. And I was like, no, no, please, no. And then I looked.
I don't look, is it not true?
I don't know what I saw. It's just devastating. Here's a few more questions. Andy Cowan, on paper, is Khabib versus Holloway still as good a fight on paper as Tony versus Khabib? It's probably better, but if everyone had a full camp, and I suppose things in the past have shown that you don't need a full camp.
Yeah, it really depends. Like, if Holloway was in the gym and if he's one of these fighters who always kind of stays in good nick, then I don't know if he is. I never see him out of shape, but there's a big difference between 5-round Khabib Nurmagomedov shape and fucking not contracted to a fight, staying in shape. You know, it's a big difference, especially when somebody like Holloway has such a high output. You got to think it's gonna affect him if it goes late, but maybe he'll just go for it early, and maybe that'll be enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to pick Max, but I might have to. I think he'll win. I do. I think he, like, after all the talk I did earlier about Tony being able to stop him at source, like Max is better at that. Max is really, really excellent at stopping people at source like that. He won't let Habib push him back. You know, man.
If Khabib gets one takedown, though, like I know we haven't seen Holloway on the ground in ages since Conor, but I know Conor's ground game is massively underrated. But Khabib's
I take it back. I'm picking Khabib. I take it back.
It's hard to know because we've only had a few minutes to process the whole thing. I was basically just before we started recording this, I was just putting the article up and embedding the Dane interview and all that stuff. So you don't even have time to think about the style matchup because. We obviously been thinking about the Tony Khabib style matchup for years, and I hadn't even considered this Holloway Khabib fight even hypothetically. I don't think anybody even ask a question on the podcast, and people always bring up hypothetical fights. So
we'll do
it's a tough one to make a decision on, but you'd have to think that like the pace that Khabib's going to be able to put. Or the pace that Holloway usually tries to put on people, he's not going to be able to put it to the same extent over 5 rounds than if he had a full camp. And I think if he does fade, it's very bad news against Khabib. He could end up getting smashed. But as you say, if he pushes him back with strikes, he's a way better striker than Khabib. And every fight and every round starts on the feet. And Khabib has been preparing for a different guy as well. So maybe, like, you know, stranger things have happened in MMA. Like, you know, GSP tapped the strikes against Matt Serra. Like, you know, shit happens in MMA.
They do.
It's a great fight. And I'm actually, the more I talk about it, the more I'm looking forward to it. But fuck, like that Tony Khabib fight is probably gone forever now. As you were saying, they probably won't put that together again. And that's a real shame.
I can't. Simon Dardy asked, surely they asked Conor to fight first. I don't think they probably did, no, because they need time to promote that.
As we were saying earlier, I don't think they put on one of the biggest fights they have to make in the company on short notice, especially if what Dana and Conor's team and people have been saying about them not wanting to put the Edgar fight on when Max Holloway pulled out 2 months ago. If they didn't want to do that on short notice, then I don't see them wanting to do this on short notice.
Yeah. Next one is here from Scroobius Pip, world famous rapper and podcaster. A few questions he has for us. What's the point of life? He asked for us. There is no point of life after this happened. I can't even fathom.
Anybody claiming to know is lying.
How can God be real when he lets horrific things like this happen? I agree. How did it's Easter Sunday and he lets this happen? Like, what's wrong with him?
Why do bad things happen to good people, Sean?
He says he's crying as well, so I agree. The geek troll, hold on, this should be good. So did Tony never hold the belt? Because the belt is on the line, but UFC said Tony was the champ, and champs don't get stripped for being injured. Yeah, have both lads been stripped now? There was 2 champions like 15 minutes ago, and now there's 2 different lads fighting for the championship.
Yeah, Dana's still sticking to his confuse everybody statements and say the same belt instead of just saying the UFC lightweight belt and just clearing everything up, because this is the reason. Like, you know, this is the reason they didn't strip Conor, because Khabib and Tony pulled out of these fights before, and
it still might not happen.
Yeah, who knows? Khabib could fucking stand on a banana skin, or you get hit with a red shell or something. You know, who the fuck knows what could happen?
It'll be fucking Michael Chiesa against fucking Anthony Pettis for the UFC lightweight championship at the end of the day. Let's be honest.
Mo Salah could jump out of like a cardboard wall and like scare the shit out of him and he fall over and injure himself.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I watched that actually.
That was great, wasn't it?
That was funny, yeah. Ben Cartledge asks, is a hot dog technically a sandwich? It is fucking not. A sandwich is 2 pieces of bread.
The UFC meat tagger. What is it called?
It's hot dog brander. Meat tagger is
the hot dog brander. Only if he used them.
Meat tagger. What the fuck was that from?
I couldn't. I was trying to describe it because I couldn't think of what it was called.
I know. I always do that. So but I like slagging you anyway. Shawnee Fitzgerald, a good Irish name. Sean James Fitz over on Twitter. How far can Max be if he pulled out of his Edgar fight a month ago? How fit, I presume.
2 months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 months ago. Yeah, I'd say he's
as we were saying a minute ago, it's definitely not ideal. It's far from ideal, but he's not one of these Anthony Rumble Johnson guys who looks like he ate another Anthony Rumble Johnson when he's out of camp. So it could be a situation where he's like one of the Diaz brothers and he's running triathlons in his spare time, but I've never heard that. So
I'd say he's a fellow who kind of stays fit, though. He's always.
Yeah, I think he says fit, but fit, and like triathlon fit or like match fit is fight fit is different kettle of fish.
If Zlatan Ibrahimovic can do it, Max Holloway can do it. Andy Hall asks, who was Conor staying ready for if not this? Yeah, we talked about that. I suppose it's the UFC again, not wanting it. And John Ball says,
well, we're speculating on that, but yeah. It seems to make sense.
Yeah, John Ball says something. I text my friend, told him he was out, and he had the similar thing. He's like, yeah, that's why Conor won't fight either of them, and he's dead right. You know, that's why why would McGregor sign up to fight Khabib or Tony when this happens? Like McGregor, and if you're looking at this right from any other fighter in the world, fair enough. But McGregor's not any other fighter. He is. That's what he is now. He's the biggest draw in the sport, in combat sports, and he's only taking big fights now that he knows are going to happen, and he's not going to take. I can't see him taking a fight against either one of these, like 4 months out or whatever.
Unless the UFC or Endeavor put in the contract that if they pull out, he still gets paid his full money or something like that.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't like. I don't like. Like, how many times has Khabib been injured and had to pull out of fights? And now Tony's getting a name for it as well. But, like, if Conor's going to stay in the lightweight division, he's going to have to fight these guys at some stage. But he's going to have to make sure they make weight and that they make fights first. I think he said this in the past, but, like, the cheddar could change all that. Like, you know, if they said, oh, we're going to do this stadium in Russia or whatever, let's just say, for example, and we're going to give you this amount of money extra to do it, you probably just do it, like, you know.
Yeah, I just my voice is gone.
Your voice is gone by the end of the last podcast as well.
Yeah, Ariel just tweeted there that what you call him, Khabib is on his podcast tomorrow. And Damon Martin tweeted, Tony Ferguson will no longer be interim lightweight champion with Khabib facing Max Holloway per Dana White. So whatever that means. Let me just look up. I'll get a few questions. Let me just look up the Notorious. Let's see if he tweeted anything in. Let's see. On time of recording. No, he hasn't. Right, let's get to another couple of questions. Michael, am I wrong, or is Holloway a tougher matchup for Khabib? Better boxing, takedown defense. I think he's a better.
I think Max Holloway is a better fighter than Tony Ferguson all around. I just think this short notice, like 5 rounds on short notice, is tough. Like against Khabib Magomedov, who can put a lot of damage and soak a lot of cardio if he does get a dominant position. But Holloway hasn't been taken down since. I'm pretty sure he hasn't been taken down since the McGregor fight, and he wasn't expecting any takedowns in that fight. I don't think McGregor was expecting to attempt any takedowns in that fight, but that circumstances changed with the knee, and also that's or whatever happened, and it was unexpected. But with Khabib, it's going to be expected that Khabib is going to be looking for takedowns. Is this enough time to prepare for that? I'm sure Max Holloway has been doing a lot of takedown defense since the McGregor fight and since in preparation for all of his fights, but in preparation for that last fight that he's meant to fight against Frankie Edgar. But Khabib is if he gets on top, will Holloway be the same fighter when he gets back up? Will he have the energy and the gas tank to last the 5 rounds, or to put the pressure that he usually puts on? That's kind of a trademark of his game is that high output, and if he loses that, will his game work as well as it usually does? I don't know, but I think I kind of agree with what that guy's getting at. I think it's probably Holloway is probably a better fighter than
yeah, I agree.
And he's probably more likely, as you say, to push Khabib back on the feet, and he's a better striker. So he has a better tools to exploit Khabib's weaknesses.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the short notice thing, I suppose. At Ian the McKenna, who will be the champion when Khabib beats Max after missing weight? Like Max could miss weight now as well, because he's going to be cutting down. Like, God Almighty, this is Andrew McGahan is fucking ringing me. Will I answer him?
I'd say Dana will let them do the old.
Will I answer Andrew?
Let them do the old Daniel Cormier tail trick. They'll just be like, you can lean on it.
Hello, Andrew. We're recording a podcast right now. Say hello.
Hello.
How are you? How are you feeling? How are you feeling about?
I'm in a chip shop in Dundalk, and I was calling to be the prophet. Max Holloway is going to sleep Khabib. Holloway and McGregor 2 this year.
I'm feeling it could happen. We were just talking about it there. It could happen. Like it could happen. Just
the man is going to do it. Of course, he's going to do it. it's just going to be the ultimate 2 fingers to the UFC. Holloway's just going to come in and smoke him. No hassle.
Yeah, he could do. Can you hear him there, Graham? Can you?
Yeah, I can hear him kind of. He sounds like he's had his first drink of his life.
Yeah. Graham says you sound like you had just had the first drink of your life.
No, I'm not. I'm actually, I'm sick and I had to go outside there because I couldn't stand inside having this conversation. So I'll let you record the podcast and we'll chat afterwards.
Okay, no bother. All right, hold on a second. Are you devastated or happy about it?
Am I devastated or happy about it? I'm actually really excited about it. From like a question point of view, like what can happen next? I'd rather Conor either fight Khabib or Holloway. Whereas if Tony had a bet Khabib, then I don't think it would have been as interesting for fans.
That's actually true.
What about the possibility though, Andrew?
You
can't hear you, Graham.
Somehow you're shocked that you got injured by kicking steel bars. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like someone like that someone who is as stupid as that doesn't deserve the chance to fight Conor, and then after 5 days notice, be like, yeah, I got injured.
Yeah.
You know, like you tweeted that a second ago. Like it's a miracle that that one of them has showed up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let this go. I want to get the camp.
All right. Thanks for being on the podcast, Andrew. God luck. Good luck. Bye now. Bye. That was interesting. God luck. Yeah, I know. My bad. But thanks, Andrew, for being on the podcast here. Carl Fegan. I know there's no time to push for pay-per-view for Conor to make it worthwhile. But Jesus, man, we put a sentence together. But do you reckon Conor would have stepped up? I don't know. Had you been chatting on this?
I don't know. I'd say that to pay him a serious wedge to get him to agree to that. Like, I think he knows that Khabib fight is going to be a massive payday for him. So I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. It's pure speculation.
Yeah. Thomas McNeely, where does Ortega fit into all of this?
We were I mentioned him earlier. On the actual podcast that we recorded, that's kind of useless now. Well, the first half an hour anyway.
First 30 minutes, yeah.
But Ortega is a really interesting matchup for Khabib, and he's a really interesting matchup for everybody because he's this kind of he's not one dimensional. He can strike a little bit he can strike like a bit as he proved against Frank Yeager. Like put away Frank Yeager first time Frank Yeager been put away. But Frank Yeager, we all know the Gray Maynard story, like, you know. Sean's favorite.
Best boxer,
his levels to striking, and Egger is good, but it's a different kettle of fish when you get to the upper echelon, as I like to say. But yeah, it's just like now that I'm thinking about this Max Holloway fight more, I think it's a real shame that we're kind of seeing it on short notice in a way. Even though I'd way prefer to see this the no Khabib fight, or like this being off the card. It's a real shame we don't get to see this fight on full camp. We may get to see it in the future again, but I think it decreases the likelihood of that. But maybe if Holloway wins, it actually makes sense to do it again. Maybe if either, I don't know. I'd like to see it on full notice full notice for both guys at some stage in the future as well, no matter what happens tonight.
All I want to know
next weekend.
All I want to know is where was Nate Diaz? Like, why didn't Nate Diaz come in?
He's in Cabo drinking something, cocktails or something, smoking some CBD, not THC. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Was it not? What was that? Do you think it was THC?
That was definitely. Oh well, not definitely. I would be shocked if that wasn't THC.
How come?
Because it smelled like THC. I was there.
Oh really? Oh, this is This is breaking news. I like this. This is. That's actually bad for your fellow pothead fraternity. There, you're fucking selling them out. You bad bastard. Yeah.
I'm telling people the real shit.
The real shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Nate Diaz approves of the real shit.
Yeah, that is true. In fairness. All right, I suppose we've blabbered on enough about it. As I said, go back to episode 157 from 32 minutes in, listen on to the rest of it. It should be good. So we've given you about that, I suppose, here as well. Thanks to everyone for listening. I'll have the size up over the next couple of days. If you sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. I have I think, is it 4 rewatches I have? I think it is, Graham. Isn't it coming this week? So that's very enjoyable. And I think we'll probably do another one of these in the next couple of days when we've kind of calmed down. And maybe after the what?
We also have that weirdo journalist, Jeremy Botter, coming on as well.
Yeah, WrestleMania preview Wednesday. So it'll probably be out Thursday. So enjoy that. Thanks everyone who signed up already. SevereMMA.com patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. All right, that's it from us. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news if you're just waking up to this in the morning. It's 1:06 here, but yeah, our apologies, and we'll see you next time.